Welcome everyone. Today we have a very special guest, André Nacli. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Happy to be here.
So he's a Brazilian-based developer, and we're gonna ask him all the questions about how he works in Brazil and how it compares to here in Miami. So let's get started. So Andre, first of all, we want to know a bit about you, about your backstory, and what brought you here.
All right. Well, first, thank you. I'm happy to be here with you guys, exchange some ideas. Well, I'm from Brazil, from the city of Curitiba. I lived there most of my life. I've been doing real estate development there for around 15 years. I started, in college, I went to business school and architecture school. I didn't finish architecture school, but I always knew I wanted to work with construction or architecture. And I started my career on banking, then insurance, and then at some point there was an opportunity for me to enter as a small investor in a development project, a high-rise one, not a big, but still a high-rise, and that's where I mostly learned a lot of what I know today, because I entered the project to learn and everything went wrong. So I did learn a lot from that. It was a great school. And from then on, I've been doing mostly high-rise residential and high-end, with a lot of focus on architecture quality and thinking a lot about the end user and the relationship of the projects to the city itself.
Amazing.
Okay, and I have a question. How did you get the opportunity to start in the first project that you were talking about?
It was relationships. It was a friend of my father, who would very often invite him to participate in his real estate development projects as an investor. And at this point, he thought it would be an opportunity because the greatest architects of our city were involved in the project, as not only as the architects but as associates of the project. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to get in touch with them, because a lot, to be honest, I'm not really familiar here, but a lot of the knowledge from the real estate market in Brazil, it lies on the architects as well. So that we rely a lot on them to decide on the products, on what the legislation of the city permits. So it was a good opportunity to be around them, and it was based on that network.
And that's amazing. I think that's how most deals start. You need to find someone that you know that gives you the opportunity to get started. So that's amazing. And I wanted to know more basically about your company. When you started your own thing, like where did this start and where are you today in terms of your projects?
Nice. So I don't have the numbers in square footage. Can I say square meters?
Of course.
So after this project, right after it ended, I was looking for pieces of land, plots of land to develop similar projects, but more successful ones. And I finally found a very good project that could be feasible for our size and the risk we could take. And I spent a lot of time not only finding the piece of land, but also developing the project. I have a lot of sense as an architect and a bit of maybe an artist. I take a lot of time to develop the project, more than usual.
Mhm.
So, but what since the beginning, what happened is when the projects go to market, they perform really well because they have been very well thought in terms of products, in terms of marketing, in terms of price point. So I know that and it's funny. I've been trying to avoid to. In Brazil, it is very common to exchange land for apartments. I don't know how you call that in the US.
I don't know if that has a specific name, but it also happens that you.
Yeah. So I've been trying to avoid that because that puts pressure on the project. Of course, the landowner wants the project to go on as fast as possible, and but many times I understand that we do need more time than he's. So what we've been doing is either buying land or exchanging for apartments in projects that are already ongoing projects, not in the on the site itself. So we can have more time and flexibility to develop the project to a point that we know it's going to be very successful from there on. So I think this effort of developing projects to the very details help a lot on the success.
So, with your experience, you understood that spending more time on preparing the project in the end is the best investment you can make.
For my model, yes. I wouldn't say it's for everyone, but from what I do is a residential boutique. The present project we're doing is 33,000 square meters in terms of construction. It's a big project.
Wow.
But it was done with the same mindset. You can't call that a boutique because it's big, but it was done through that mindset for the details. Yes, and on the other hand, we in Brazil we do a lot of pre-sales in order to finance the project,
Right.
and sometimes I feel it's like a bit of a pity to do pre-sales because our projects are so detailed that it's hard to communicate on a pre-sale phase how well thought that project was. So once we get to the construction phase or almost delivery, we can see, well, the project it was really good and people weren't able to see all that it had until it's actually ready. So it's doing pre-sales. It's an exercise of communication.
Yeah.
Marketing. It's hard. Yeah. It's so. Sometimes you feel bad. You're like, I should have put the price a bit up.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying basically when you do pre-sales, you feel like you're kind of losing a little bit on that margin because you're selling a product that is actually superior to what people are seeing on the renderings or something like that. So you feel like you're losing a little bit on that margin.
Yes, but on the other hand, it's helping you finance the project, and also it's very important, at least for us, for me, to have the customers that went in the project early on that they have a good investment, not only for living, but that what they believed you, and the prices went up, and they know they're not going to be buyers buying on delivery date with prices similar to what they bought. We want to give them also return on their investment.
Great. Do you invest in a for each project? Do you invest in a sales center? Because here is very common. I don't know in Brazil how does it work.
Yes, what we did for this project, we built a store. So we used to build a sales center for each project on the piece of land that the project was going to be. But now we decided to build a store where we launch all the projects in this place. So it's called a gallery. It's a sales gallery, and it's very flexible. It's very well located, and it became a reference in the city. So a lot of people know that our projects are there, and they can always refer to that place. So we're not building and destroying anymore. We're keeping the same place, and it's working really well.
That's a really smart structure actually, because you have the same one that if you're building one building after another or you one structure after another, you can use that space and it has already your layout as your company brand, right? Because you told us that you use the same brand of naming of the condos that you build from the first one until now. You've been reusing basically. Now you have a brand and people know you for your high quality. That's correct.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, I think we were only able to do this gallery because the projects relate a lot. We don't do like very different projects in terms of quality, size, and we tend to follow a path or a logic, and so the sale gallery it really condenses everything we believe.
So which means there is a huge demand for what you are building, because sometimes most of the developer, they always have to change completely the type of projects that they are doing in terms of branding and everything. You, if you keep following and doing more or less the same branding, it means that people like really love what you're doing, right? So there is a huge demand for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's huge because we are a niche developer. We don't have we launch one project every 2 years, and so in terms of market size, we don't have a large share of the market, but we tend to be very niche and boutique and do very well on what we do. So I wouldn't say like it's a huge demand because it's not a very relevant part of the market, but on our niche, yes, I'd say there's
Wow. That's actually
good demand.
interesting because in Miami, everybody uses brands for building. Like if the building is not branded, then
very
nobody
obvious,
looks at it and everything. And but it doesn't necessarily match the quality. Sometimes you have a branded building that's just a new brand decided to go into development, but it doesn't necessarily translate into the quality you're expecting. For example, any brand that has never done a building before can come and just put their brand and their car brand or something else brand or perfume brand for what I know. And so, which is nice to see that you've created a brand that actually translates into quality and that people refer to that. So that's super interesting. I wanted to know for like deals in Brazil, how do you finance differently from what we know in the US? Because we know that in the US, I mean, rates are kind of low. In the Brazil, rates might be higher. Like, how do you structure your deals differently than what we are used to seeing in the US?
Um, I think we have a bit of everything in Brazil.
Okay.
I think, it, as in many places, I thought it wouldn't be the same here, but I think it is. It's very pulverized. It's a market with many different players of different sizes, of different places doing different things. I think a big part of the market in Brazil and maybe all of Latin America, it goes to family and friends doing a bit of sometimes maybe shouldn't say that, but not very professional. Maybe you do one and then you do well and then you go to the next one. There's a bit of the market doing that with money of family and friends, and then there's also the big players. We have big players down there that rely a lot on banking, on finance.
Mhm.
But we have a big problem nowadays. Our basic interest rate is 14.25%, so it's super high. And
Did you know?
Yeah, I knew. That's why I wanted to know more about like
yeah, so
how can you finance
it's
having
super
those
high.
kind of rates.
So we getting leverage in Brazil is super risky. It's super risky. So I see that like somewhere the midpoint between friends and family and getting high leverage with banks is bringing equity that is in the risk of the project. So a lot of the developers, they bring in associate like LPs, but that they're running the risk of the project with you.
So they can like, have the same risk as a GP, as a general partner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So I think that's where so if every like of course the GP has more responsibility, but in terms of risk, it's pretty similar.
That's super interesting. So basically, you're building more with cash and equity rather than financing compared to the US, where most of the deals like rely 90% on having large amounts of leverage because otherwise you cannot take deals out of the ground. Maybe
Yeah.
also because of the price point and everything. But so jumping into more like the specifics of construction in terms of here in Miami and in Brazil. So when you're in Brazil, do people like really need those minimal amenities? For example, when you're building a condo here in Miami, you need to have a big pool. You need to have super high end gym and this and that to be able to call yourself like luxury. Does it exist or is it in Brazil like just regular apartments that don't need
Like in
so many
France.
amenities? Like in France, yeah, in France we have apartments that sell for very high or the highest price point, but they're not condos. they're just apartment. Do you think like the market in Brazil calls for this kind of amenities and services, or they're more like regular apartments like we can see in Europe or
I
other places?
think we're in between the US and Europe, especially because we have our cities are pretty new. Yeah? So uh, the growth of Brazil in the last, I don't know, 50 years has been exponential in terms of population. So the more traditional and more expensive neighborhoods, they tend to have the buildings more similar to an European style, which the pieces of land are smaller. You just don't have space for the amenities.
Right.
And if you do, it turns out the HOAs go crazy high. So in the very high end neighborhoods, projects tend to be smaller with less amenities, despite being luxurious. But the outskirts of the cities, or like if you're a bit out of this very high end regions, you do have the brands, you do have the pools, and they do attract people. Also because a lot of people tend to move because we have a lot of problems with security in Brazil.
Yeah.
So when you're living in a condominium, a closed, I don't know, building where you have everything in there, especially if you have kids, it does make life easier.
True.
So a lot of people are looking for, instead of maybe living in the very downtown with where the highest prices are, they're happy to drive 20, 30 minutes and live in a place where they'll have green, a pool, security,
Very safe.
and very safe. Yeah. So that's very, very present in our market, that the security aspect of it.
Super interesting.
Super, thank you. So let me bring you the new question. Well, it's like kind of a jump on Miami back. So to be back in Miami, do you see you with your big background in real estate development in Brazil, and here you are here in Miami since more or less 1 year. So, and I guess you have looked to some real estate products and everything. I know that you have been to visit some apartments. Do you see some similarities here compared to Brazil, or do you see it very, very different in terms of the quality of construction and everything? How do you describe this?
Quality of construction, I think I was surprised by. I thought it would be better quality here, to be honest. I thought also because, of course, in Brazil we have uh, mm, more available, more labor available to go to the very high end. We also, like, Brazil is well known for the stones, so we have a lot of possibilities of putting higher end material on places for a lower cost, maybe. So I was surprised how quality construction in Miami. I thought it would be better than what I found. One thing that surprised me here a lot is also, I didn't say about financing, but there we rely a lot on pre-sales. Well, there we have 6 months between launching a project and having to start construction, and it's fixed.
Yeah.
And here I was very surprised how many projects they launch, but you never know when
It's longer.
construction is gonna. It's longer, but it's also uncertain, which makes me a bit
Because they need
nervous.
to basically they can start building once they get the construction loan, and they need to reach a certain amount, a certain percentage of units sold before being able to start. Right, Loic?
Right, that exactly. So if you're working with the financing,
Secure the market.
you need to pre-sell as much as 50%, sometimes 30, 40, 50, depending on your reputation as a developer and the relationship that you have with the bank. Sometimes 60. I mean, you can get to high percentages, and then if you don't, well, the bank will just not give you the money.
Yeah.
So how does it work exactly in Brazil? You're telling me that you need basically, as soon as you launch the project and you launch sales, if you don't break ground within 6 months, you have to the people that invested can get their money back, or how does it work? I mean, in
Actually,
theory.
what you commit to is the delivery date. and you have 6 months tolerance. So let's say I'm gonna deliver the project December 2028. I have another 6 months as a buffer. But the first 6 months before construction are 6 months that you do the pre-sales and you can decide on whether to go on with that project or not. When you reach those 6 months, you can return the money to the buyers without a penalty. After those 6 months, you're locked in the project. You have to either go on, do the construction. If it's vertical, you have to do 100%. There's not a way of cutting the building into pieces. Yeah. So after 6 months, it's like the go or no go. There's no flexibility on that.
Yeah, here it's kind of different. If a buyer commit with one of the top 10 maybe developers, it cannot happen. For sure they're gonna build. But with the small ones, yes, we never recommend to go with someone without experience because sometimes they don't reach to the percentage of units sold to be able to start the construction. But 100% times when you go with a big one, they will make the project for sure.
They will make it happen no matter what
Anyway.
cost because they need to show their face, and if they have the funds, they're gonna make it happen. I was curious to know, Andre, now that you've been here in Miami for almost a year, and I know you've been looking at a lot of reconstruction buildings, and you've just tried to learn about the market. Is there anything like that surprised you about construction here in Miami, or anything specific that you want to share with us, or not really?
One thing I do. It is an issue for us in Brazil, which is the HOA. But I was surprised how much HOAs and property taxes impact the pricing on the, and because it's even smaller buildings, they have a lot of service and a lot of people working in the buildings as a valet, and we don't have even in a country like Brazil, we don't have the number of people working. So for me, it's one thing that really stood out is the importance of thinking about the HOA when structuring a project here.
It's actually curious that here in Miami, people I don't know if it's only Miami or more parts of the US, but people really focus on the services and how much they want all the services, but the cost of labor is super expensive even compared to Brazil. And you're telling us that basically in Brazil there is less services than you can find here in Miami. That's really impressive.
Well, also, if you launch a project without services, no one will buy.
Yeah, exactly.
So people are willing to pay the price. The HOA, they want that kind of life. They are used to it. So there is no way you can make a building. I guess
for sure.
There's no way we could try, but we will not have success for sure. So here, it's part of the market.
It's something that really stood out to me. Like, it has to be done. It has to be thought, and it's gonna cost.
Yeah. You have to value. I mean, when you're buying an investment property in Miami, you have to make sure that you're looking deeply into first of all, is the building new? If you're investing in somewhere, is the building new? Is there going to be extra payments to the HOA to be made? Because every little thing can cost money, but you have to take that into account for sure, and it can make it a really good investment or a very bad investment depending on how much you have to pay to the homeowners association.
That's why we always recommend mostly to go to new buildings or pre-construction or very new building less than 10 years.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is to buy pre-construction, and then as soon as you get the key, to sell it.
Because I'm not really familiar as well. Because I understood that buildings here have to go under renovation after a certain period, and that is a big amount of money.
Actually, they basically reduced after some events. They reduced the time before you had to undergo a full check of the status of the building and some renovations, etc. Because there was a building that collapsed in North Beach in sunny Surfside some years ago, and that basically changed the rule, and that increased the price of the HOA because you had what we call special assessments. So basically, to bring your building up to standard. So that caused a lot of damage at that time because buildings were not up to standard, definitely, because they built based on another standard. So if you're looking at a building that is more than 10 years old, it might have still to undergo some of those costs that maybe haven't been paid in full just yet. So yeah, and I understand, Andre, that sometime in the future, I mean, you're interested in this market in Miami. You like the invested in Miami. So I'm gonna let Pierre keep going.
Just to say that I want to know.
Yeah, you want to know?
Planning to come here.
I would like very much, because I believe it's a market with many opportunities, but also many niches. It's for me, coming from a country where the numbers are so small compared to here. When you come here, if we have a niche in Brazil, it's a whole huge market here. So there's lots of opportunities in terms of different things that you can do inside the market. The real estate market is it's one big umbrella, but then inside there's so many different ways to take advantage or to work on this market. So definitely yes. Yeah, I would like,
because basically in your city you're telling us that you're in a niche market, so you cannot launch too many projects because you have your niche, and you're telling us every 2 years you're launching a new project because there's only so many buyers, right? But here in Miami or in the US, there is like basically a bigger pool for every niche, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And does it make you afraid?
Maybe 5 times bigger, or do you range it?
In terms of market
Like
size,
the niche. If you bring that niche here, what would you think? 5 times, 10 times?
it's much bigger. I'd
Really?
say
Wow.
more than 10 times for sure.
So it's a big opportunity as well to bring the niche here.
Yeah, I think the numbers are. It's hard. Like, we see projects that have over $1 billion US in terms of general sale, right?
Yeah. Even more.
Even more. That's what my city launches per year.
Wow.
So one building in Miami sometimes it's
Mandarin Oriental.
Yeah, Mandarin Oriental is a building that's we saw 1.3 billion already. I mean, that's just one building, and
so it's for us coming from abroad. It's like everyone is very used to those big numbers here, or at least they seem like to be where we're like, So it makes the market much more complex as well, because it has to involve much more people.
There's a lot of competition too.
Yeah,
for sure. And since these deals are so big, and you definitely need financing compared to where in Brazil you could just do pure equity and get your margin from the project itself. Here, without financing, the margins don't exist. Basically, the margins come from financing. Does that scare you when you're thinking about coming into this market? Like, okay, now I'm gonna have to leverage. Now I'm gonna have to do all this leverage. I don't know if you're familiar with how this works, or well, I don't know. Is it something that you think about? Like, if I go into a deal, I know there's going to be a lot of leverage. But back in my country, if I do leverage, it's super, super risky. So you understand that here it's not as risky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part. It seems like there's no way out. If you want to dive into the real estate market here, financing leverage is part of the way things work, and there's no way out. I believe, at least.
Yeah.
So yes, there's you have to be careful in how you do it, because I can see that the margin of the project, success of the project, also depends on how you finance it, right? So it has to be taken into account from day zero.
And since towers here, a vertical project are like big numbers, as you just said, are you thinking more to first launch a tower, or more like a single family home? What would be your strategy?
I haven't thought it through, but I would never come here on my own. I will definitely start by entering. There are many types of ways you can invest in a project, but I would like to find a way where I could take some risk, but also be very close to the person who is developing, to learn and to make the decisions together for at least 10 years before starting to think of doing something on my own. But I think partnerships is the best way to enter.
Okay, thank you to share your knowledge and about the partnership, and I believe a lot in what about you?
I agree. I mean, we were talking actually last week with someone that he said that he said you don't go into a project in Miami without before like having invested or having just followed a project from A to Z. And I think you did that in Brazil, right? With your first project, you guys invested with a family friend, with all of that, and then you want to replicate basically the strategy in the US to be able to be successful, because the first time you always make all the mistakes. So
Yeah.
better to follow somebody else making all the.
It is,
No,
it
it's
is,
true.
yeah.
Man. Better follow.
And there's
somebody
no
else
like
and-
we are in a real estate development program, right? In
Yeah.
FAU, but the school is never enough. You
Yeah.
have to see it live, and every different city has its own specificities.
You have to be on the field.
You have to be
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
Because
Yeah.
theory is super, but
Yeah, exactly. It's one thing to just learn it on the book, and it's one thing to actually be there and be like, oh my god, I'm in some trouble right now.
Yeah.
So
what do I do? Let me open the book.
That work.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Any other questions?
Me, no, I'm super excited I can't wait to see you starting in the Miami market. And no, really,
Yeah.
thank you
Thank you.
so much for sharing all your knowledge. We can feel like you have a huge background in Brazil, and it's super always cool to compare like different markets. I guess people will like it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean different schools of thought and different ways of building things. I think it's a really good insight for people to basically compare what they know from here and what you're just talking about. So yeah, I think people should go to your website and see what you do,
Yeah,
because it's
right.
really impressive stuff. ideincorporadora.com, right? So
We're gonna
I
add
think
it, right?
yeah, I think you should show them, because this what you do is like really high end, really nice, and it's different from what we see in Miami. So yeah, Andres, thank you so much for your time,
Thank you, guys.
and
Thank you.
hope to see you again soon.
I hope I could share some cool stuff. One thing that I do feel is that developers, despite being from different places, they do have something in common that they share, and it's always good to hear developers from different places, because they relate to each other.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andre.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
for being
Yes.
here.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.